It was late September when Charles asked the owners of the empty property at 1625 North Baker Street if he and his classmates could use the house for a haunted house. The old McEntire place had been empty for several years now, and it was ideal for the creepy vibe needed for their idea of the house. Mr. McEntire's grandson said that they could, but that there were two conditions, and if they couldn't agree to them, then the deal would be off. He had the kids meet with him at the home. It was getting dark when they showed up. Grayson had arrived early to unlock the large home, though. He was much older than they had pictured, hunched over a bit, used a walking stick. His gray hair was long, and his coat was drawn up closely around his sharp facial features. He let the teens in, and when they walked into the foyer, they were stunned. The home was beautiful on the inside, even under the dust and cobwebs. There were two long stairways on either side of the entry, and they had gorgeous hand-carved rails. There was red carpeting. You could see it even through the dust. There was marble wherever there wasn't carpet, silk drapery and ornate wallpaper. The furniture had been mostly removed, and the wallpaper was still brightly colored from where it had been hidden behind large paintings. "This is the old girl," said Grayson. "Let me show you around." He led them through the ornate kitchen, dining room, formal guest room, private family room, and then they went upstairs. There were several bedrooms upstairs, the maids' quarters, which didn't look at all untidy. The bed was made, there was furniture and photos. He closed that door quickly. There was another door, but it was shut. "Here's where I tell you the conditions in which you may use this house," he started. "Number 1, you may never unlock this door. There's to be no one allowed in here, or the maids' quarters. Do you understand me?" The kids shook their head in agreement. "Number 2, I want this house left just as you found it. You must clean up after yourselves, or your parents will have a mighty lawsuit on their hands. Am I clear?" Again, the kids shook their heads in agreement. One of the girls in the back raised her hand, indicating that she wanted to ask a question. "Yes, young lady, what is it?" Mr. McEntire, what exactly is in that room?" "Child!" He raised his voice now. "What business is that of yours? You will stay out. Is that clear enough for you?" "Yes, sir," she replied meekly. Right about now, Charles was beginning to wonder if this was even a good idea. "Okay, kids, time to lock up. Listen, here's the key. You can come and go as you like, but I will be around to check in on things. Again, keep that door locked." "Yes, sir," replied Charles, and as the kids began to walk to their homes, they started to giggle a bit. "Wow, is he weird or what?" said one of the girls. "Yeah, creepy," exclaimed Charles. "That house would be scary enough if we just let him stand there and yell, 'Don't open the door.'" They all laughed. Over the next few weeks, they dragged in props for the haunted house. The table of someone's grandmother, the couches picked up curbside, a few mirrors. They piped in scary music and made dead bodies to lay here and there. And every day they'd walk past the maids' quarters and that locked door and wonder what was behind that door. Some were even brave enough to try and look through the keyhole. One said she'd seen something red. Another that he'd seen what looked like a fingerprint from someone's finger. Someone else said that she was sure she'd seen an eye looking back at her. All never looked in again, and everyone felt uneasy being around it. One night, at the end of a long day of preparation, 2 days before the opening, Charles thought that he'd heard the door to the maids' quarters shut, so he quickly ran upstairs, yelling for Tom Riggs to follow him. When he reached the top of the stairs, there was nothing, but as they stood next to the closed door, they could have sworn that they heard a muffled sound, a muffled scream, and then a scuffle noise. By then, everyone was standing there, and Charles shushed them. Nothing. No noise. But the boys were sure that it had been something. Opening day went off without a hitch. Everyone loved the haunted house. Even the local news crews came out to interview the teens and Grayson McEntire, who, by the way, was taking a great deal of the credit for the work the kids had done. The house was open for the week of Halloween, and it was making quite a bit of money that would be used by the school drama department, so everyone was pretty happy. Finally, on the last night, the kids were locking up. They were all excited about how well they'd done, and they were even grateful that Grayson McEntire had been hanging around. He added his own sense of creepy just by being there. Suddenly, there was a loud noise upstairs. Charles called out, "Hello? Hello? Hey, we're closed. You have to leave," thinking that a guest must have straggled behind. Then another noise, a loud thumping sound. Charles and a few of the teens headed up the stairs. "Hey, if you don't mind, I'm going to hang back here where it's a lot less creepy," joked one of the girls. Us too, chimed in some of the other kids. According to the news reports, what happened next is that as the group got to the top of the stairs, they noticed that the maid's door was open, and they heard the thumping coming from the locked room. Charles knocked on the door. "Hey, anyone in there? Listen, this room is off limits," he called out. There was no reply, but something large hit the door from the inside, and the kids jumped back in terror. Suddenly, they called out to the group downstairs that the doorknob was turning, and the kids began to run to join them as their curiosity won over their fear and better judgment. That's when a woman, barely clothed, long blonde hair, wild eyes, long fingernails, dirty feet, opened the door, dragging the bloody body of who one could only assume had been the maid, with her bare teeth shaking her like a rag doll, and then she threw the body down and reached out for Charles as he was trying to back away. But he was blocked by the large group of teens trying to get past him to run down the stairway. Her long, thin arm reached out to his neck, wrapping her bony fingernails around his throat, and as she pulled him closer, she bit into his throat, sending blood pulsing from his artery all over the floor, all over the walls, as she ripped his head nearly off. The woman got away into the night. The police performed an investigation and found that Grayson had been hiding a daughter in that room for many, many years. He had hired the nanny of his other children to stay with her, alone in that house. The woman has never been caught. 3 weeks later, Grayson McEntire sent a bill to Charles's family from his lawyer, listing the expenses of the house cleanup cost and demanding that they pay for them.